So Carrie Lake was asked, why does everyone hate Donald Trump so bad? And she said it's because we have been brainwashed by the fake news media, that it's been an 8-year smear campaign against Donald Trump, and that we are the ones that didn't really see what we saw and didn't really hear what we heard. You guys take a look at this clip of Carrie Lake, and then let's come back and talk more about it.
And why are we having such a hard time not buying into Trump? I mean, the left hates Trump. Why?
Well, sadly, there's been a huge 8-year smear campaign on President Trump. It's been a brainwashing campaign unlike we've never seen by the media to continuously run nonstop negative stories, lies, and slanderous stories on President Trump and his family. And, it's hard to push back on when that's all you hear about a person. It affects people. And sadly, some people still believe what they see in the fake news media.
See, folks, what Carrie Lake is doing right here and what Donald Trump has done for the last 8 years is called gaslighting and projection. They are projecting who they are onto the rest of us. When they sit and tell us that we have been brainwashed by the mainstream media, what they're really saying is we have been brainwashing you for the last years to believe that every word spoken against us is fake news. See, I've said this before. There is fake news. When Donald Trump says there's fake news, if Carrie Lake says there's fake news in the world, there is. None of us is arguing that there's not fake news. None of us is arguing that sometimes the mainstream media will cherry pick lines out of context and play just that. It's happened. But what they don't tell you is all the times that it came out of their mouths. They don't tell you is how many times their media got it wrong. What they don't tell you is how many times Donald Trump himself spread factual misinformation. They don't tell you about all the stories. Anytime one of their stories falls apart because it's confronted with facts and evidence, what do? They shift and say, well, it doesn't matter. The story's still true. How can a story still be true if your main informant, for example, was fed a bullshit story and admitted it? How then can you continue to push that narrative while telling us that we're being brainwashed? Can someone explain that one to me? Because there's no world where any of this makes sense. This is classic cult leader mentality, and I've said this before. I feel bad. I used to feel bad. I don't anymore. I used to feel really bad for saying that these people were in a cult. I felt awful saying it, because I didn't want to resort to that. But this is cult-like mentality when you have someone stand up and do something or say something into a live microphone and then turn and tell everyone you didn't just see what you think you saw and you didn't just hear what you think you heard. That's what Donald Trump has done from day one. When we go back to January 6th, what I've always pointed out is that his own people that he appointed, that he hired, his own family said, no, there's no evidence of fraud. The election wasn't stolen. You lost. He would have been much better off, could have saved us all this headache and all this stress if he'd have just walked out there and said, you know what, the American people have spoken, and they want Joe Biden for the next 4 years. I disagree with America's decision today, and I'm going to be back in 4 years to remind you that I was the better guy. If he'd have took the high road and done what everyone else has done in history, which is, while I may not agree with the results of this election, I'm going to work for the better of the country. Had he done that, he may be appealing to moderates or independents today, but he's not, because he doubled down on the fake news. He doubled down on the lie. He organized an event on January 6th, stood up there and said, we got to take our country back, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country again. Now, someone can go back and find a little fragment where he said, hey, let's peacefully protest, but he told the people that something was stolen from them while he was trying to install fake electors and saying, just find me the votes. They got to be there. Just find them for me. This is gaslighting. This is projection. This is the smear campaign on Voices of Reason. It's a smear campaign on common sense. And it's a smear campaign on anyone who has two sets of eyes who can see through what Donald Trump has done to this country. He has manipulated the media every step of the way. And the media, at the end of the day, the mainstream media, I will always argue at the end of the day, they're actually Donald Trump's best friend, because they create this illusion that he's still out there and he's still in the game, when in reality, he is not connected with independent voters and moderates. He needs them desperately. He needs them desperately to win in the general. He doesn't have them. But Donald Trump does equal ratings. Donald Trump, if you put his name in a headline, people are going to click on it. If you put him in front of a live microphone, people are going to see what he has to say. He's like a bad car accident. You can't look away. He's like going to the bull riding. You got to see some dude get stomped in 8 seconds. That's what this is. He's theater. He is theater. He is WWE. And he's up there projecting who he really is onto us. They sit back every day, they accuse drag queens of being pedophiles, but they can't find not one case where that's been the case. Yet Donald Trump was found liable for sexual abuse. They can sit and talk all day long about the Biden crime family. As their stories crumble and all their evidence falls apart, Donald Trump is found guilty of fraud. Donald Trump is ordered to pay money. Donald Trump can't practice business in New York. And what does he do? He resorts right back to the classic cult leader mentality of, well, they are all out to get me. Folks, I know everybody out there has streaming apps. We all have our favorites. You can go on Netflix, you can go on Peacock, you can go on Max, you can go anywhere you want to, Hulu, and you can just look up cult documentaries. And you can find them and you can watch them. And if you watch 20 documentaries on cults, they all have the same premise. Some dude, some liar, some manipulator gets a group of people to believe that he has their best interest at heart and that anyone coming after him is coming after them. He convinces them that he is fighting the fight for them. And people gets worked up in that. That's why team sports have been so popular for so many years, because people wants to think that the Pittsburgh Steelers is playing for them. How many times have you heard, that's my Steelers right there, boy, that's my Steelers. They never been to Pittsburgh in their life. Boxing, popular sport. Wrestling, popular form of entertainment, because people goes to see someone fighting for them. And Donald Trump has gaslit and he's manipulated people into believing that he is fighting the good fight for them. And people like Kari Lake and Mike Lindell and Marjorie Taylor Greene and every other MAGA nut job out there, they see this grift is working and they're jumping on board. If you go back and you look at certain politicians years ago, they weren't using this rhetoric. They weren't speaking in this tone. They were using a completely different language. When they saw it working for Donald Trump, they said, hey, we better jump on that. Because this guy literally just sold a shirt with his mugshot on it that said never surrender, which he was surrendering in the mugshot. These people tried to buy a piece of his suit. If that ain't cult-like, I don't know what is. These people buy trading cards. These people bought sneakers. We can cash in on this grift. So when Kari Lake says, oh, we've been brainwashed. No, Kari Lake. Donald Trump and probably brainwashed you at the end of the day, and if not, you saw the grift and you're right in there with him because you realize that people are easily led and easily brainwashed. But it ain't us, because we saw Donald Trump with our own eyes, we heard Donald Trump with our own ears, and we're going to always be calling it out, and we're always going to be holding that man accountable, no matter what kind of alternate reality that MAGA chooses to live in.